Wilma Fraser woke before sunrise and listened to the rain tap the kitchen window. It had stopped by morning, but the sky still looked heavy over the fields south of Haven, Kansas. A cool wind moved across the porch and shook a loose board on the barn roof. Wilma stared at that board for a long moment while she poured coffee into her cup. That roof had been patched 3 times already. One hard winter storm could tear it open for good. The fair money had to fix it. There was no other way. Wilma and her grandson Luke had counted the cost last night at the kitchen table. New tin, nails, and a man to help lift the sheets into place would take nearly all the money from the sale of Luke's calf. Luke had worked that calf since spring. He fed it before school. He brushed it after supper. He had even skipped 2 ball games so he could stay home and clean the pen. The calf was his first prize animal, and today was the day it would go through the county auction. Luke came into the kitchen still in his boots and work shirt. He was 14, lean and serious, with hair that never stayed down. He took one look at Wilma's face and said, "You think the fairground will still be muddy?" "It will be muddy enough," Wilma said. "You keep your eyes on that calf and we will do fine." Luke nodded, but his hands still looked tense. The calf was in the back of the old pickup, tied safe in a small stock trailer. The animal was called Buck, a red-brown calf with white socks and a quick, jumpy way of moving. It was good-looking and healthy. The judge in the 4-hour barn had said Buck had a strong back and good weight for his age. That kind of calf could bring a good price if everything went right. If, Wilma thought. She did not like that word. Fair days brought sunburn, dust, loud music, and small problems. Today, after the rain, they would bring mud too. By 9 o'clock, the county fairgrounds were busy. Trucks lined the gravel road near the gate. A deputy waved cars into a dirt lot that had turned soft after the rain. Kids ran by with paper cups of lemonade. The smell of fried dough, onions, and hot grease drifted through the air. Farther off, the farm machinery building sat quiet and square, while the Midway was already awake with music, bells, and the low rumble of rides starting up. Wilma and Luke parked near the stock pens. They unloaded Buck carefully and walked him toward the sheep barn, where the 4-hour animals were being held before the auction. Buck tossed his head once, then settled down when Luke rubbed his neck. Wilma took the lead rope in one hand and a paper bag of cracked corn in the other. "You sure he is calm enough?" Luke asked. "Calm enough for now," Wilma said. "He is a calf, not a saint." Luke gave a short laugh, and for a minute his shoulders dropped. That was good. The boy had been nervous since breakfast. Inside the barn, the floor was already spotted with wet mud from boots and hooves. Pens had been lined up along both sides. Calves shifted and snorted. A goat bleated somewhere behind a curtain. Fair workers in green shirts moved up and down the aisle, checking tags and calling names. A woman with a clipboard nodded at Wilma and Luke and pointed them to the end pen. Wilma had just looped Buck's rope over the gate when the trouble began. A loud whistle cut through the barn. 2 boys hurried past outside with a flat tire on a wagon. Buck jerked his head toward the sound. Then, from the ride area, a burst of music and a metal clang rang out. Buck jumped sideways. The rope slipped hard through Luke's hand. Before he could grab it again, the calf twisted, snatched the halter free of the gate hook, and lunged toward the open door. Luke shouted, "Buck, no!" and ran after him. Buck burst out into the fairground mud like a shot from a gun. His hooves skated once, then found ground, and he raced toward the Midway, with his tail up and his head low. Luke froze for half a second, shocked by his own bad luck. Wilma did not freeze. She slammed the corn bag into Luke's chest and said, "You take the lead rope from the trailer. I'll circle him." "But he is fast," Luke said. "Then move faster," Wilma snapped, and took off across the mud. The calf cut between two tents and headed for the bright painted horses of the merry-go-round. Children screamed with delight, thinking the whole thing was part of the show. A little girl in a pink raincoat pointed and laughed. A man at the popcorn stand dropped his scoop and shouted for people to move back. Wilma pushed through the crowd, lifting her long skirt just enough to keep it from the mud. Her boots sank deep at every step. Buck had a good start, but he kept looking over his shoulder. He was afraid, not wild. That was important. A wild calf might run until dark, and afraid one might stop if the right person got near him. Wilma saw a chance near the food stands. A woman named Mrs. Tate ran a kettle corn booth with a blue tarp over the roof. She looked up, saw the calf, and shouted, "Well, that is new." Wilma called back, "If you have a bucket, I need it now." Mrs. Tate shoved a metal feed bucket out from under her table and pointed with her chin toward the box of shelled corn behind the stand. "Take that too," she said. "You will need more than luck." Wilma grabbed the bucket and tossed a handful of corn in it. The smell caught Buck's attention for just a second. He slowed, then darted away again as a tractor engine started near the sheep pens. Luke came pounding up from behind, rope in hand, mud splashed clear up to his knees. "I lost him," he said, breathing hard. "You did," Wilma said. "Then we found him again. Don't talk. Watch his feet." They moved together now, one on each side of the calf's path. Buck slipped once near a puddle and nearly went down. Mud sprayed across Wilma's coat. A man by the ring toss booth laughed until his wife elbowed him and told him to help instead. He caught the end of a rope gate and held it open while the calf passed. Luke yelled thanks without slowing down. Buck raced past the stock pens and cut toward the rabbit barn. The smell of hay and animals seemed to make him more nervous. He swung left again, straight into the long walkway between the food stands and the Ferris wheel. The Midway was packed now. People stopped with trays of fries in their hands. Someone cried out that a loose calf was coming. A boy on the bumper cars stood up so fast he nearly lost his hat. The ride operator cut the music for a second, and that was when Wilma heard the auction loudspeaker crackle from the livestock barn. "Next up in the sale ring," the voice said. "Lot 23, a strong calf from Fraser Farm." Luke's head shot up. "That is us," he said. Wilma's stomach tightened. They were out of time. If Buck did not get back to the holding pen soon, the auction clerk would skip their number and move on. Then the calf would have to wait, and the family would wait with it. The roof would keep leaking. Winter was coming, whether they were ready or not. She looked ahead and saw the Ferris wheel turning slow over the crowd. Its red steel arms rose above the Midway like a giant frame against the gray sky. Buck was running toward it now, maybe because the open space around the wheel looked safer than the crowded walkways. He ducked under a chain fence and skidded into a wide patch of mud near the ride loading gate. Wilma knew that kind of place. A scared calf could circle there for an hour, never finding a clear way out. "Luke," she said, "go wide to the left. Cut him off by the ticket booth." He nodded and ran. Wilma moved straight toward Buck, talking low the way she had talked to frightened animals for 40 years. "Easy now, boy. Easy. Nobody is going to hurt you." Buck lifted his head and looked at her. Mud clung to his legs and lower belly. A dark stripe of wet dirt ran down the side of his face. He breathed hard, steam rising from his nose in the cool air. Behind him, the Ferris wheel creaked once as it turned. In front of him, Luke came into view with the red rope raised in both hands. To the right stood the wheel support, a patch of fence, and a trash can with a dented lid. Buck had nowhere clean to go. Wilma stepped one pace closer and shook the bucket. The cracked corn rattled inside it. Buck's ears came up. He took one step toward her, then another. Luke moved in from the side, careful and slow. The calf tried to turn back, but the fence blocked him. Wilma swung the rope low and caught Buck just behind the jaw. Luke grabbed the halter at the same time. For one long second, nobody moved. Then Buck gave one last jump and slammed against the fence post. The rope held. Wilma planted her boots in the mud and held on. Luke got both hands on the halter and said, "I have him, I have him." "You better," Wilma said through tight teeth. The calf shivered, then stood still. His sides moved fast, but his feet no longer slipped. Wilma set the corn bucket on the ground and touched Buck's neck. His skin was warm under the wet coat of mud. At that exact moment, the loudspeaker crackled again. "Lot 23 is ready," the voice said. "Frazier Farm, bring that calf to the ring." Wilma looked at Luke. He looked back at her, his face pale under the mud. "Can we still make it?" he asked. "We are going to make it right now," Wilma said. They half led, half pushed Buck through the side gate and into the livestock lane. A fair worker with a clipboard spotted them and waved them forward at once. "You found him," she said. Wilma gave her a short nod. "He found us first." By the time they reached the auction barn, a small crowd had gathered in the ring. Men in work boots leaned over the rail. A few women sat on folding chairs with paper fans in their laps. The auctioneer, Mr. Finch, stood on the platform with a black hat and a quick smile. He had already started his rhythm, but he slowed when he saw Wilma and Luke bringing Buck in muddy and tired. "Well now," Mr. Finch said, "here is a calf with a story." The crowd laughed softly. Luke looked embarrassed, but Wilma just kept moving until Buck stood in the center lane. Mr. Finch pointed his stick and called, "This is Lot 23 from Frazier Farm." Young, healthy, and strong on his feet. "Who will start me at 800? A man near the front lifted his hand right away. Another man followed with a higher bid. The numbers rose fast. Wilma stood off to the side, with one hand still on the rope. Her heart had not slowed yet. She could hear every step of the auctioneer, every murmur from the crowd, every stamp of Buck's hoof in the wet dirt. Luke leaned close and whispered, "Do you think they will still pay fair after all this?" Wilma watched Buck lift his head and stand firm in the ring. "That calf ran like he had a future," she said. "Folks can see that." Mr. Dobbins, who ran the feed store on Main Street, raised his bid once more. He was a broad man with a red face and a quiet voice. He had bought 2 calves from the Frazier family before. He knew good stock when he saw it. 1,200, Mr. Finch called. Mr. Dobbins nodded. 1,300. Another man hesitated, scratched his chin, and shook his head. "Sold," Mr. Finch shouted, bringing the hammer down with a sharp crack. "Sold to Mr. Dobbins for 1,300. The sound rolled through the barn like thunder. Luke let out a breath he had been holding for hours. Wilma closed her eyes for 1 second and felt the ache in her arms and back all at once. Then Mr. Dobbins came down from the front row and clapped Luke on the shoulder. "You boys and girls had quite a chase," he said. "Good calf. Good work catching him." Luke looked at Wilma, half smiling now. "We caught him because Grandma would not let him beat us," he said. Mr. Dobbins laughed. "That sounds about right." Wilma took the sale ticket from Mr. Finch, folded it once, and tucked it into her coat pocket. The money would cover the roof and leave a little for feed before snow came. It would not make the whole fall easy, but it would make it possible. Outside, the fair had begun to turn toward evening. The clouds were breaking apart in strips of pale gray and gold. Lights had come on under the Ferris wheel. The Midway smelled of wet dirt, sugar, and smoke from the grill stand. Buck was already being led away by Mr. Dobbins' helper, calmer now that the rope was secure. Luke wiped his face with the back of his hand and left a dark streak of mud across his cheek. "I really thought we lost him," he said. Wilma looked toward the barn roof in her mind, then back at the boy beside her. "You did lose him," she said. "Then you got him back. That is how a hard day works sometimes." Luke gave a tired grin. "Next time I tie the knot twice." "Make it 3 times," Wilma said. They walked out of the auction barn together, boots heavy with mud, but their step was lighter now. Across the fairgrounds, the Ferris wheel kept turning over the small Kansas town of Haven, bright and slow against the evening sky. And for the first time in weeks, Wilma Fraser could picture the barn roof at home covered in clean new tin before the first hard frost came.